One minute, CJ Stroud is on top of the world. He's the undisputed story of the NFL, this rookie quarterback just rewriting record books, basically carrying an entire franchise on his back. And then, almost overnight, he becomes the center of the storm of doubt and concern. It is truly one of the most sudden narrative shifts for a young star that I can remember. So how does that happen? How does a hero's story, built up over a spectacular season, just crumble so quickly? Well, today we are unpacking the one playoff performance that put CJ Stroud's brilliant future into question. We're going to dig into exactly what went wrong, why it happened, and what the Houston Texans' high-stakes plan is to fix it. Welcome to NFL Nexus. Let's get right into it.
Okay, let's just start with this quote because it really cuts right to the heart of the whole thing and sets the stage for everything we're about to talk about. See, when a veteran voice like former NFL Pro Bowler Richie Incognito speaks up, you listen. This isn't just some talking head on TV. This is a guy who spent 15 years in the trenches. He gets the physical side, but more importantly, he gets the psychological warfare of the game. And his words here, they're blunt. He doesn't just say, oh, he had a bad game. He uses the word collapse. And that phrase, a shell of himself, wow. When you talk about a quarterback, that is incredibly powerful. It suggests a total loss of confidence. Like all that poise and swagger that defined his entire rookie season just evaporated. It points to a player who wasn't just making mistakes, he was mentally defeated out there. This quote perfectly captures the alarm bells that started ringing all over the league after that playoff game.
So how did we even get here? I mean, seriously, just think about it for a second. How does a player who was the runaway offensive rookie of the year, who was getting legit MVP buzz, who was the toast of the entire league, how does he suddenly become the subject of so much worry and deep dive analysis? This next part is all about that whiplash feeling. We're going to look back at the incredible, dizzying high of his rookie year just so we can fully appreciate how jarring and shocking that final low really was.
To really feel the shock of this playoff loss, you have to rewind. You have to remember what the regular season was like. Before the year started, the Houston Texans were supposed to be, well, pretty bad. One of the worst teams in the league, probably. But CJ Stroud wasn't just good for a rookie. He was playing like a top-5 quarterback in the entire league, period. He single-handedly breathed life into a franchise that had been dormant for years. We're talking over 4,000 yards, 23 touchdowns to only 5 interceptions. I mean, that ratio is just mind-blown for a first-year guy. He was leading them to a division title that nobody, and I mean nobody, saw coming. The momentum was like a tidal wave. He was the hero. And then, under the brightest lights of the postseason, that whole beautiful story came to a screeching halt and was instantly replaced with doubts about whether he could handle the pressure when it matters the most.
Okay, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. Let's put all the talk aside and really dissect what happened in that AFC divisional round game against the Patriots. It's one thing to throw around a word like collapse, but the real story, the thing that has the Texans front office so laser-focused this offseason, is in the details. It's on the game tape. So let's look at the hard numbers and the specific plays that kicked off this whole firestorm.
And this, right here, is the core of the problem. 7. Just let that number sink in for a second. 7. In today's NFL, especially in a winner-go-home playoff game, that number is almost impossible to believe. It's a complete game wrecker. 7 turnovers isn't just a statistic, it's a full-blown catastrophe. We're talking about multiple interceptions, multiple fumbles, and they didn't just stop Texans' drives, they were gifts. They literally handed momentum, field position, and points to the Patriots on a silver platter. Look, a quarterback's #1 job before any of the flashy throws is to protect the football. And in the biggest game of his life, Stroud gave it away 7 times. It's just one number, but it tells a devastating story of repeated mistakes that no team, no matter how great their defense is, can ever hope to overcome.
And those 7 turnovers, they weren't just bad luck or a few tipped passes. No, they were symptoms of a much bigger breakdown in his game. You look at what former players and analysts who studied the tape said, and they all saw the same thing. That incredible decisiveness he had all year, it just vanished. He was appearing tentative, patting the ball, double-clutching, second-guessing what he was seeing. He was delaying releases, holding the ball for just a fraction of a second too long, which is an eternity in the NFL. That's how the pass rush gets home. He started forcing throws into tight windows, trying to play hero ball instead of just taking the easy completion or throwing it away. That indecision led directly to strip sacks, one of the most demoralizing plays in football, where the ball is gone before you even start to throw. And on top of all that, he was throwing lame ducks, these weak, fluttering passes, a sure sign of bad mechanics or getting hit as you throw. These weren't calculated risks. These were the mistakes of a player who looked completely and utterly overwhelmed. And here's the part that makes it all so much worse, the thing that really stings. The Texans' defense showed up that day. They played their hearts out. They battled and kept the team right in the game against a really tough Patriots team. So this wasn't some total team meltdown where everybody failed. No, the loss was overwhelmingly, you might even say exclusively, put on the shoulders of the offense. And when the offense is the problem, the spotlight, fair or not, shines brightest on the quarterback. Those miscues weren't just part of the story of the loss, they were the story. They were the reason the Texans' magical season came to such a sudden and painful end.
So, the million-dollar question on everyone's mind was simple. Why? Why did this happen? I mean, when a player performs so far below his established elite level, everyone starts scrambling for an explanation. Was this just a pure mental breakdown under the crazy pressure of the playoffs? Was it a flaw in his mechanics that a great defense finally managed to expose? Or was he let down by his team's game plan and protection? This is the debate that was raging everywhere after the game, as all the experts, and you better believe the team itself, tried to figure out the root cause of such a shocking decline.
And this slide right here, it perfectly frames that debate. It basically breaks the blame game down into two different camps. In one corner, you have the argument that this was all on Stroud. He's the one who made the uncharacteristic mental errors. His confidence seemed to just collapse after the first turnover or two. He developed what they call itchy feet in the pocket, meaning he was bailing out and moving around when the protection was actually fine, creating pressure on himself. But then, in the other corner, you have the argument that the team failed him. The Patriots brought a furious pass rush, which points to poor offensive line protection. Others argued the coaches didn't help him out with schematic failures, maybe by not calling quicker passes to slow down that rush. The real answer is probably somewhere in the middle, right? A bit of both, but figuring out that balance is absolutely critical to finding the right fix this offseason.
Now, this quote right here introduces a much more troubling and frankly, kind of a scary possibility for the Texans and their fans. This idea moves way past this just being a one-game fluke. It asks a much deeper question. What if this isn't a bug, but a feature? You know, what if his aggressive playmaking style, the very thing that makes him so special, just naturally comes with a tendency to be reckless with the ball when the pressure is on? The fear here is that this isn't just a bad habit you can coach out of him. What if it's a fundamental, unchangeable part of his DNA as a quarterback? If that's true, well, that makes the path forward a whole lot more complicated. All right, so with the problem pretty clearly identified and all these debates raging, what's the plan? What are the Houston Texans actually going to do about it? How do you take your franchise guy who just had an historic rookie season and a disastrous playoff game and make sure he gets right back on track? Let's take a look at the team's official response and their detailed plan for what is an absolutely critical offseason.
And this quote from head coach DeMeco Ryans, it just perfectly captures the team's public message. Ryans is known for being a calm, steady leader, and this quote is exactly that. He's not going to throw his young quarterback under the bus in the media, but you have to listen to the specific words he's using here, the fundamentals of the quarterback position. That is pure coach speak. It's a coded message that says, we have to break his game down to the studs and start over. He's signaling a complete back-to-basics approach. It's all about reteaching and reinforcing the foundational building blocks of how to play the position and, more importantly, how to manage a game to win.
So the Texans' plan isn't just one thing, it's this comprehensive four-step process. Step one is flush the negative. The mental side of this game is huge. Coach Ryans knows Stroud has to put that game in a box, lock it, and just move on. Block out all the noise. Step two is the really big one. Rebuild the foundation. This is the core of the whole offseason. We're talking about drilling his footwork, his release point, his decision-making process, and above all, ball security. Step three is improve protection. This is the team publicly saying, hey, we have a part to play in this too. They know they have to give him a better, cleaner pocket to work from, and you can bet that'll be a focus in the draft and free agency. And finally, all of that work leads to the ultimate goal. Step four, restore confidence. They need to get him back to being that decisive, fearless, and electric player he was for pretty much his entire rookie year.
And this really just highlights the delicate dance a head coach has to do in a situation like this. Publicly, Coach Ryans is Stroud's biggest cheerleader. He's telling everyone he refuses to let one bad game define CJ as a player. But behind closed doors, the message sent by a detailed plan to rebuild the fundamentals is crystal clear. It's a clear admission from the coaching staff that something was fundamentally broken in that playoff game and needs to be fixed from the ground up. It's that necessary tough love for the young player who holds the keys to the entire franchise.
So all of this, the collapse, the analysis, the rebuilding plan, it all leads us to our final section, and it is a big one. This offseason right now is arguably the most important of CJ Stroud's entire career. This is about so much more than just bouncing back from one bad game. This offseason is about defining the whole trajectory of his future in the NFL. Look, having a great rookie season is a fantastic start, but it doesn't automatically punch your ticket to being an elite quarterback.
Elite status in this league, that's something that's earned over years. It's forged in the fire of adversity. It's earned by facing a humiliating moment, like a 7-turnover playoff loss, looking it right in the eye and coming back stronger and smarter because of it. The history of the NFL is littered with talented, one-year wonders who couldn't adapt when defenses figured them out. This offseason is C.J. Stroud's first real test of that critical ability to correct, to grow, and to prove that his rookie year wasn't a fluke, but the new standard.
And the stakes for how he responds this offseason, they could not be higher. First, he has to completely re-solidify his status as the long-term franchise guy for the Texans. Any doubt has to be erased. Second, yeah, a massive contract extension isn't happening tomorrow, but this next season sets the whole tone for those talks. The team needs to have total faith before they commit hundreds of millions of dollars. Third, he has to show tangible, measurable improvement in ball security. And maybe most important of all, for the team and the city of Houston, he has to make sure that championship window he blew wide open in his rookie year doesn't start to close because of inconsistency at the most important position in all of sports.
And so that brings us to the final central question. Was that playoff collapse just a brutal learning experience, a temporary setback on the path to a truly great career, or was it a red flag, a sign of a deeper issue with decision-making under pressure that's going to keep popping up when the lights are brightest? The entire league, and especially the Houston Texans, will be watching very, very closely next season to find out. What do you guys think? Was it a fluke or a fatal flaw? Let us know your take down in the comments. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe to NFL Nexus and hit that like button so you don't miss our next deep dive. And hey, one last thing before you go. If you're looking for a fun way to relax after all this intense football talk, you can help support the channel by checking out our coloring books. They're perfect for kids, grandkids, and yeah, even for adults. You can find the link in the description or just scan the QR code on your screen right now. Thanks for watching.